Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 16th, 2023 at approximately 4:27 p.m. PST. Looks like we've already got a couple of people in the chat room. So let's start there and then we'll do the other part of it. Dogface, welcome aboard. You have come in with the gold, followed shortly thereafter by Shadow and Sun with the silver, and we'll see how things go from here. Looks like you're a little ahead of the game. Personally, I only just got here. Anyway, just figured I'd better let you bring a couple of things into place. Number one, I returned to this world for one reason, and for one primary reason, and one reason only. And that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer people are the exact same tools I personally use myself in my own day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the exact same ones I personally live by. Now, I decided I was going to I was asked to talk about narcissism. And most people, when they think of a narcissist, they think of a negative person that's got functionally no redeeming qualities. And what do we got here? Tara, welcome aboard. And you come in with the bronze, and there is Anthony coming in with honorable mention. And let's just see if we've got things moving here. Still trying to get the starting points organized here, but I do have a rather remarkable piece of information for you. I don't have all the books up and running yet, but my Amazon store. Whoa, that's a lot of back. There we go. The Amazon bookstore I was planning on getting up and running. Joe, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. I finally, at long last, have my Amazon store up and running, at least partially. Now, there is a lot of things going on behind the scenes with it, but that's okay. At this point, these 3 books are actually available right from Amazon. We're having fun with the other 4, but right from my Amazon store. Okay, and you'll find the link right at the top there. Well, as a matter of fact, we'll do it this way. This is the link to the store. Where are we here? We copy that and we pop it down here. Saint, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. And, well, that didn't work all that well. Let's try that one more time, shall we? Paste. Okay. Now, that store leads you to these. Okay, that is believe in yourself and follow your dreams. This is the backbone of the business that I work this is the backbone of what I have done to take my life from where it was and turn it around, okay, to where it is heading now. This second one, believe in your business and follow your dreams, is the backbone of how I started designing and building my business. Okay, now do understand, I actually opened my business back in 2007, but the reality is I was working full-time and didn't do a thing with it. Now that has changed. Okay, and then we have this little book. This is actually a children's book. Okay, and as you can see, it is written and illustrated by me. Okay, these are all available straight through Amazon. Now, the way it's supposed to work, and until I actually see what happens, I won't know for certain. But until I get to see it in motion, what's supposed to happen is you place the order. Okay, it comes to me. I put the book in the book packaging together, sign the book, and make sure you get an autographed copy. Okay, now that's the way I'm told it's supposed to work. But the problem that I have right now is I don't know for certain just how accurate that is. However, with this in mind, I am looking forward. Now I can look at it, or you can look at it and go, this is a very self-serving approach. And in all honesty, it is. I could not, people are told that you've got to have your life in order by the time, have got to have your life in order. You've got to have an idea where you're heading by the time you're 20. Well, I'm 59 now. I was almost 55 when I went, this is where I'm heading and this is how I'm going to get there. And I'll tell you, if it hadn't been for you guys, if it hadn't been for you guys pushing really hard and really encouraging me to start this whole channel and this whole YouTube thing, I wouldn't be sitting where I am. Okay. But, and for that, I really cannot thank you enough. Now, I'm still trying to, somebody asked me about how to buy a coffee and what have you. I had it set up. I did not have a chance to get a hold of Dave today. Okay, from Spaced Out Radio. But I've got to get that done tomorrow, I suspect. The reality of it is, I've also started looking into some of the other things. Now, we can call this narcissism. This is the one thing I am looking at. I have chosen that from here on out, okay, thank you so much. I'm just reading back through a couple of this. Thank you so much there, Anthony. It was a bit of an uphill battle. The last part of 2022, I spent more time sick in the last 3 months than I have in my entire life combined. Okay, so it was a bit of a wake-up call. But from this point forward, I figured 2022 for me, for you, is over. Okay. I think it was Joe that brought it up, but it was one of the things that I have to take a look at where it comes to narcissism is so many people look at it and go, oh, that's an absolute evil thing. But if you think about it for just half a moment, what have I been telling you all along? Okay, karmic law dictates you must be true to you first. That's the first one. The second, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Well, what narcissism does and what narcissists do is they look at the entire world as though it revolves around them. And realistically, if you're going into business, you have to look at the world as though you are at the top of the totem pole. I learned this one the hard way. If you don't look at yourself as though you're the top of the totem pole and everybody, even the biggest of the big, answer to you, you're going to run into troubles. Now, the catch here is narcissists have a tendency of taking that a little overboard. Absolutely, Saint. Self-preservation, let's face it, if you don't take care of you and you're trying to take care of other people, if you don't survive, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to do so. Now, you remember I mentioned I was going to clear out all this junk behind me? Well, you notice it's missing. Okay. But narcissists have got this one thing going for them. They figured out that they've got to be the center of the world to get on top. But the problem that most of them have is they're not in balance. In other words, they're not treating people the way they desire to be treated, and they're not putting the energy out that they desire to get back. Okay, now with this in mind, there is no question, I am going to, from this point forward, I am putting me as a priority. Now, don't get me wrong. This room, and I've seen a lot of people do it, the room gets really active, and we got to start charging. That, unless something absolutely twisted happens, like I die or I get shot with a lightning bolt and go completely psychotic, okay, I've got no intention on charging people for access to my YouTube channel. Okay, ain't gonna happen. Yeah, that was good English, wasn't it? But I speak gooder English now and then, too. The thing is, the way I figure it, and this is why, if you look at the top of the channel, Okay. If you look at the top of the channel, there are at the top of the chat room, there's a whole list of different YouTube channels that keep coming up. Okay, Tara, I'm going to just address this one head on. First and foremost, do you have, well, here, drop me a note here. This is the easiest way to do it. We will get you sorted around because there's always ways to work around it. I do not cotton to the idea that you can't do it because they don't deliver to your area. That is not the way I work. Okay. So drop me an email directly. Okay. To this. There we go. You can drop an email to me directly to invoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. Okay. Or go straight to PayPal and use that email address. Okay. And they will get it to me. I'll find a way to get it to you. The big problem I've got is the cost is a little exorbitant. And this is why I say drop an email to me first. Okay. Number one, these books, which I'm really trying to get on the line, are not on Amazon, are not accessible just yet, or more to the point, I'm pulling off what was there and striving to get these onto my own website. Okay. But so, I mean, the reality is they are somewhat expensive because of the cost of shipping, but I will be happy to find a way to get it to you. Okay. The other thing, of course, from my standpoint, oh, good. Well, I can tell you this right off the bat, and here's where it gets a little pricey. Okay, just so you got the information ahead of time, because of what it costs, okay, because of what it costs for shipping, for production, and the whole 9 yards, the actual cost of this is $40. Unfortunately, because we're shipping at this size, and I don't have the Amazon and the different link up yet, I will look around this. I'll be looking around this week anyway, looking for a cheaper way to ship it. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, it ends up being 65 Canadian taxes in. That's shipping. That's the whole 9 yards. But absolutely, drop me a line at the email I just gave you, or order it directly through PayPal, and we will find a way to get to you. Okay, I have no idea why people would say we can't deliver it to your area. It's not like you're out in the middle of Queensland or something like that. That is not a problem there, Joe. And there's a lot of people that refuse to admit that their parents or that somebody they know or they themselves are narcissists. Many don't recognize what that is, but it really boils down to, when you think about when they were kids, when most narcissists are younger, what ends up happening is they get onto a bend, and then everybody, especially with some of the older ways of doing things, they aren't corrected, and then it just snowballs into a worse case. Okay, but do understand there, especially in this case, Joe, and I realize you brought it up, and I really appreciate you doing so. The reality of it from my standpoint is this. A narcissist is not an evil person. They are not a bad person. Okay, and the fact that you love your parents, this is fantastic. Would that I had straightened things out with mine before they passed away. Okay, but the fact that they are narcissistic, that everything revolves around them, this is not a sign of a bad person. Okay, it does tend to get a little lopsided. And by the way, before you try and go there, people, striving to change somebody's behavior in that category is going to be a major problem. Because first, you've got to start by helping them understand that, I hate to tell you this, but you're not the only person on the planet. Okay. Where it comes, the one thing that you can really learn, and this is why I said there is a positive side to it. Had I been more forthright, more of the mindset when I really started pushing my business and started pushing the books, okay, had I done that, I would not have had the heart attack the other day. I've made way too many allowances, and now I look at it going, okay, the business, Inner Voice Enterprises, is my business. It's been in existence since August 11th of 2007. I just haven't done anything with it. Okay. Well, I don't blame you there, Saint. It takes a certain amount of patience to deal with problem children. Okay. And narcissists are not the only ones. Okay. They're just the only ones I'm dealing with for the mind that I'm primarily dealing with tonight. The good news from my end, because I'm looking at it going, I have to, as I've told you, pick a direction in life. Pick what you're aiming for. What is a primary goal? Okay. And you're more than welcome there. You're more than welcome there, Tara. The reality is, from my standpoint, I look at it going, narcissists can teach you a lot where it comes to business. Where it comes to social interaction, there's going to be some hiccups. But if you take the way they behave as a business, okay, and you apply that to a business, you can make head and shoulders maneuvers in order to become more successful. Now, I am not condoning taking people's feelings out of consideration. You have to, even with a narcissist, it is imperative that you treat them as though they are normal, decent people. Okay? Because in all fairness, I've met a few of them. And they are a pain in the neck. They really can be. Because they don't get the idea that somebody else that you're talking to and that they're talking to actually has a valuable opinion. Now, I see this happen a staggering number of times in a relationship where either the guy feels they're the top of the totem pole and everything they say the girl must do. Okay. Almost like it's a possession. And it is not. Okay. This said, I find women do it almost, from a ratio standpoint, it's almost a 50-50 flip. Okay. And I know some of you are not going to like this, but this is based on my consulting with in excess of 100,000 people. Okay. About 70,000 of those are relationship, about 30,000 being business. And this is where the information for these two books came from. Okay. This is based on not research as in reading up what all the professionals said, okay, or looking at all the business almanacs to find out what proper business practice is. I'll tell you what proper business practice seems to be now. Get a sales team that is phenomenal at selling your idea. And then take all of that once you've got the contract signed. My experience is they flat out don't follow through with it. Okay. Now, this is one of the things that I am working to build because I'm planning on taking the bottom out of the industry. Okay. Now, am I any sort of a major mogul? Not a prayer. Outspoken, opinionated, stubborn as the day is long, you bet. Okay. But the reality of it is, when you're looking at things, whoops, forgot to do that. Gotta get my glasses on here. I was supposed to send a link to somebody, and I forgot to do so. So, you take that, we go to there, and send it up. Now, The reality of it is, oh, by the way, because like I said, I am aiming for 1,000 subscribers this year. I wrote it down today. I forgot to write it down at the beginning of the year, but I wrote it down this morning. So from here on out, I'll be able to look at it and go, that's where I was, and that's where I've ended up at the end of the year. To see what kind of a growth curve I've got. But you have to take a look in the mirror and go, am I being true to me? Are you one of these people that's doing the opposite end of the scale of what a narcissist does, and you put everything on your, everything in the way, you put it all aside so you can make sure other people are taken care of. This is very nice of you, but extremely counterproductive. Okay, narcissists have a tendency of putting their needs ahead of everybody's and not looking at the interaction part. Now, like I've mentioned, everything is interconnected. Okay, everything is interconnected. If you're focusing on you and you desire to have a better life, well, here's a neat little part to it. You can sit back and say, no, I'm just going to say everything revolves around me and that's it. But what happens when you turn around and actually start helping other people at the same time? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting any of you take money that you don't actually have, okay, that you cannot afford. When I talk about charity, when I talk about helping other people, okay, I'm referring to helping other people with a percentage of my net income, meaning be true to yourself first. You've got money coming in, okay, and you take that, figure out how much you require to run your household. Now, for me personally, when I look at my rent, my utilities, one credit card, okay, my insurance, transportation, savings, and entertainment. When I take a look at all of that, okay, when I take a look at that, what I end up doing is finding out that, it takes me to run my household, it takes $2,400. This means with Inner Voice Enterprises, my company, because I work from home, I've got a tax deduction of 10% of that. Meaning it takes me, I've got to, with Inner Voice, generate $240, okay, in order to make that happen. I am happy to say already, with the change in philosophy that I've got, okay, or more to the point, the change in implementation. Raven, glad you could join us. With the change in implementation, I've already hit that barrier of what I had to make with the company, but not the amount that I require to hold up its end of the bargain. Okay. Absolutely, Shadow. Go and enjoy dinner. Hopefully we'll see you again a little later. I'm going to make a point, and just because I can do this, where do we go? I am going to have to make a point and come back in, but this is Shadow. Where are we? This is Shadow's website, guys. So, or YouTube channel, rather. So if you would be absolutely kind enough to do so, drop in, take a look at it. He does some phenomenal work. He and his son do some phenomenal work with the little figurines. Okay, and various other things he works on. And this is what I mean. When I'm talking about taking a page out of Narcissist's book, absolutely. I'm asking people to, if you like the channel, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate you subscribing to my channel. Okay. But one of the ways of getting that to happen is every one of these sites that I put up, I've already subscribed to. Okay. But it's a question of put the energy out, help the people you're in contact with, and find a way to make that happen. then going back to Terry here for a second, there was a time, we're talking last week, where I was just literally waiting for somebody else to sort out the problem with shipping and what have you. I finally got fed up with it. And the result is, Tara comes to me and goes, this is what I'm trying to do. And all I do is go, here's the way around the rest of it, and let's make it happen. This is what is necessary in today's world. What I'm finding is that so many people are so caught up in, I desire instant gratification, and I want everybody else to do for me without me changing a thing. I heard it stated on TV one day that people are so busy. Well, actually, it was on TV, but on the original Jurassic Park, the scientist involved said people are so interested in trying to figure out what they can do, they forget whether to figure out whether they should do it. Now, I know I'm going to run into complications. There are topics that I'm avoiding, and that's because YouTube has stipulations and what have you, and they're supposed to have stipulations. Okay, this is that thing about you must follow the laws of the land in which you are, which falls under number 2 karmic law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If you desire people to follow your rules and your guidelines in your house or on your YouTube channel or wherever you are, then it is imperative that you do the same when you're in their house. Okay, now I'm looking at this whole concept of narcissist. Now, there are extreme cases, okay, and, I've seen it where where a particular narcissist would not even walk by a mirror without looking in the mirror and starting to adjust their hair. Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Once you know, the thing there, Joe, is if you're dating a narcissist, okay, as soon as you know that they're a narcissist, put the boundaries in place. Okay, narcissists can be a pain in the neck. By the way, just to put that in perspective, so can a perfectionist. Okay, somebody that is so caught up in the tiny minutia of doing something and doing it their way is a royal pain to deal with. But this does not mean they cannot be dealt with. It does not mean that that there isn't somebody out there for them. The thing is, now, I believe I was talking to you about this the other day there, Joe, or that it came up anyway. If you're seeking a partner, literally take a sheet of paper and write down the qualities you feel that you desire that would make the perfect partner. Now, it's often easier to identify the things you don't like. And in this case, you put down must not be a narcissist. Okay, must be generous, whatever you want to put, but definitely you go must not be a narcissist. Because I'll tell you, if you've never dealt with one, you're lucky. Okay, many people have, different narcissistic tendencies and tendencies from various different people. By the way, for those of you that didn't make it last night, we hit a record yesterday, and we had 22 people in the chat room at the same time. Now, I tell you, from my standpoint, shock of shocks, but was I ever happy about it? For me, that said is staggering amount. Like I said, the support and the encouragement I get from you guys is phenomenal. Okay, I'm still working on how to make things happen, because do I want to make it down to the Vegas symposium? The answer is yeah, very definitely. But I just found out yesterday or the day before that the estate that I'm waiting on may be another year before we get it sorted around. And with that in mind, I've got to make sure I take care of the home front first. Hence why I'm looking at it and going, okay, by the way, if you know one thing you can do, and this again, it's sort of a way of working with a narcissist or getting their insight. Because if there's one thing that a narcissist has got down pat, it's how to look at the world from the standpoint of what can I get out of it. Now, I do caution you, okay, if you're drawing stuff in, again, energy out, energy in. Well, the reverses as well is the same as well. Well, thank you so much there, Raven. If you've got a narcissist, they know how to take. They're not great at the giving thing. But if you can talk to one and they can explain to you, this is why I deserve to get treated better. This is why I deserve to get deals. Okay, narcissists have no problem demanding deals because, quite honestly, it doesn't cross their mind, essentially, that they shouldn't get the deal. Now, somebody like me, I'm not good at the deal thing. I look at the price of something and go, that's what it is. But narcissists can teach you how to accept a deal, how to accept charity. They don't see it as charity. They see it as their right. And why wouldn't you give this person money? What in any concept would cause you not to think that you should be getting the extra money in the handouts? Okay, this is just the way they're built. Okay, now most of you know somebody that's built the other way. Okay, where they don't pay attention to what they require, and it's just a question of give. They end up digging themselves into a crater. Okay, now I don't know what the clinical term is for that, but of course, in all fairness, I never took a course in psychology. I was literally forbidden to. This doesn't change the fact that I've been dealing with things, that I've been dealing with things for a very long time and really creating problems. I always appreciated honesty there, Saint. And it's funny. Some people would look at you going, "Oh, I'm a narcissist, and this is me," and it's not a question of it being anything to be ashamed of. It's a question of knowing who you are and knowing why, knowing what you expect out of the world. Okay. Sad to say, you have one thing going for you that many people here don't. Okay. You expect the world to support you. Now, this is not a slight against you. Okay. But it's a good thing, that's so much better than the way I've been ending up having to look at the world. Because right now, the second somebody says they've got a corporation and we can do this for you, the first thing I go to at this point is you're putting a shovelful out. Okay. Because my experience has been that corporations, the ones I've dealt with, and this boils down to your businesses all the way up to your governments. Okay. They're great at the sales pitches, but I find trust is not my strong suit here. Okay. But the danger point, and everybody, every walk of life can have the same problems. Okay. Everybody can. The one hiccup that I can see happening with some narcissists is when somebody doesn't give into their perception. Okay, all of a sudden they're faced with this reality. But why not? Why aren't they bending to my will? Okay, and the reality is that narcissism has a very bad rap. Okay, it's not a sick. Well, you can call it a sickness, you can call it a misfire, but the reality is there is nothing worse about narcissists than I've found about virtually everybody else. Absolutely there, Saint. Saint just made the comment here, shoot for the stars. And here's the thing, my father, who was definitely not a narcissist, okay, he made a comment, and he used to make this comment repeatedly. Okay, what he did, I wonder if that'll work. What he did was he said, shoot for the stars. You may not get there, but even if you get to the moon, you've done well. Okay. Now, I will tell you, professional procrastination doesn't work well. And the one hiccup that I find with many narcissists, and yes, I've dealt with a fair number of them, but they expect other people to do everything. Okay. That can create a problem because the reality is, no matter what your emotional state or your intellectual approach to life is, no matter what it is, okay, you're the one that's going to have to be responsible to make things change. Now, I desired to get all the clutter out of the back end here. Well, you'll notice it's gone. Okay, and you can't see it, but I've cleared off the left-hand side here of my desk. So I've got a lot of the clutter out of the way there as well. And what is that? I think those are in the way, and it's just annoying me every time I look back here. Tape measure necessary for moving things. Right. And again, many people will tell you that you've got to, get things organized and what have you. So you see something out of the way or that's in the wrong place. The real key to it is making certain you act on that. Okay. Make sure you take a look at things and go, which way am I going? Well, that is excellent, Raven. That is a fantastic thing. Oh, did I have that there? I don't have it there. Where did I put it? Well, that annoys me to no end. There it is. This little thing is supposed to be sitting right there. I got that for Christmas from my ex-wife, right? And you guys seem to like it, so that's where it sits. I just had to clear everything else out of the way. But absolutely. Oh, that's even better. You shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, which is great. There is something that I learned a long time ago, and I used to make fun of it because I never aimed at it. I was never good at shooting short. But the other one I learned was you can accomplish anything in life if you set your sights low enough, which is a bad way to look at it. Okay. I look at it this way. The one I live by is when your mind can I do not like hiccups. When your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. And yes, by the way, I have started looking into the merchandise side of things, into cups, into t-shirts that I can actually get for a decent price at a high quality and start working with those as well. Okay. As I come up with them, as I make the connections, I will let you people know. Absolutely. Okay. The thing that I am looking at with this site, okay, with this channel, with this live stream, is to get people helping people as much as possible. Because the reality of it is, we can make this turn around. We can make this world a much better world. And we can rid it of the greed. Now, do understand when I talk about removing greed and removing that aspect of it, the greed, the debauchery, the shall we say illegal approach, it's going to take a while. It did not take us a day and a half to get here. It's going to take a while to change it. Okay. Myself, I'm looking at starting this change now. The best I can tell you there, Raven, is in time I'll figure out how to pull this off. But if you can send an email to me with that picture or in some other fashion, okay, get it to me and I will see what I can do about figuring out how to post it on here. One day, and I figure once this chat room gets active enough, okay, and I get to know some people a little bit better or a little bit organized, if you will, I'm eventually going to have to bring moderators in to handle some of these little things so we can make it happen. But in the meantime, if you can send a picture to me, I will do my best. Oh, that's the easy part. Send it to innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. Okay. I have found it determined. And I was looking at it going, when can I get on a regular basis? Well, as it turns out, I'm able to get on most days from at 4:30 until 6:30. We're going to count Thursday out of the equation. That's my gaming day. I'm not giving it up. Okay. But I've got to do something to change my income levels, because I don't know about you, I don't like living on the street, and I don't feel I'm getting there. The reality is that I'm going to have to evolve this, because I know there's going to come a time where I run into all kinds of hiccups. I do appreciate the offer there, Saint. We should, to put it simply, we should connect offline, and the only way I do video connection is on Skype, on Yahoo Messenger. LinkedIn, I think, has a connection, and I also use FaceTime. Okay. Other than that, I don't know how any of it works. So those are the 4 options to connect, and maybe we can get something moving. Gordana, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yes. Yeah, the reality is, we all went through a lot of complications that were really, shall we say, aggravated by political approach or by medical approach. But the last 3 or 4 years has been a nightmare for many of us. And this is the time to take 2022 and everything else behind you and let it go. Okay. This is not the time to go, oh, I had a rough year, I'm just going to keep blaming that. And this is one of the things that a narcissist has a real jump on. Okay. Yeah, I had a bad day, but it was somebody else's fault. So I'm not going to worry about it anymore. This world is mine. Now, I wrote, when I wrote The Birth of the Wolf Pack, okay, the main character in it is a chap by the name of Jeremiah Wollstrand. Okay. And the neat part of that is that character, when I built him, he made a comment to the game master, right, to the guy that actually set things in motion. He says, look, and because it was a post-apocalyptic world, Jeremiah turns around and goes, and he literally looked at the game master and he goes, I did not ask for this world to collapse, but daggit, I'm going to have the best of the best. Okay. Now, I have come to the conclusion, I didn't ask for the world to turn upside down, but it was partially my neglect that has facilitated it. I could have started working in this venue of really pushing the idea and trying to get things to change. Okay. I could have started doing this years ago, but I didn't. I pulled away from everybody. My bad. I'm not doing that again. At this point, it's a case of, okay, I'm in the process of putting my own life in order. And as you can see, things are being changed around quite quickly. Okay. So I'm going to be focusing on that in order to make sure that I can get things, that I can get things moving in the right direction. Yes, I have this funny little habit of ending up with things that get me a little sidetracked, but what the heck? Well, not that. Need this one. Just letting somebody know where the link is. So the reality of it is now, when we start looking at, I should have asked you this a while ago, Saint, and you don't have to answer this at all. Okay. I'm going to put it out there for you, though. But you said you're a narcissist, or at least that's the way it sounds like. Okay. And we can safely say you're not as hardcore as some of the ones I've run into. Because one thing that you'll never see from a hardcore narcissist is I'll gladly help. Okay. That is not part of a hardcore narcissist standing. However, they do have some quality, in any event, they have qualities that are very functional. Okay. The one question I always get a real blank look when I ask them is, do you enjoy the way your life is going? Do you enjoy the way you're treating people? And they usually look at me very blank faces, like, what's wrong with what I'm doing? Of course I enjoy it. Okay. I look at myself in the mirror and I am not happy. Yeah, and that's just it there, Saint. You're running a beautiful interaction. I don't think anybody on the planet makes as much as they'd like. But, it's funny, you mentioned that you gave way more than half of your income to a loved one who needed it. Okay. When I ended my marriage, I took just what I had to have and left everything else behind. Okay. She ended up with the massive lion's share of our estate at that time. And we're still helping each other out. But you're one of these people, Saint, that, yeah, you may look at your world and go, this is what I deserve. But there is no question in my heart, if somebody has a problem, you'll be there to give them a real hand. Without expecting a whole lot. That's just the way the reality goes. From my standpoint, whoa, didn't want that. I cannot do that. Somebody tried calling me. This doesn't work well. Oh, so you gotta put a hold on that. That's what's called an interesting hiccup. See, I look at it this way. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what your outlook on life is, if you're reaching out and you're helping people, and I'll tell you, Saint, the reality is you've made some comments in here that I have not noticed the behavior myself. But the real catch is to be honest with yourself about your own hiccups. Okay. And, the thing that I keep looking at is people have talked to me all the time. Like I always get told, somebody that is a narcissist, you don't deal with them. They're just not worth the effort. Okay. Because you can't make any headway. Well, you're not going, if you're hoping that your headway is going to get them to see the world from your eyes, it's not going to happen. Of course, in all fairness, that's the same problem I have when people try and convert me from the way I'm looking at the world to following a specific religion. You know, there's been a lot of people who've tried converting me, and it doesn't work. Okay, although I do have a lot of fun with it on occasion. You know, when we're looking at the world, when I said it takes all kinds, it takes the generous people, it takes the narcissists, it takes greedy people, but it's all in moderation. Okay, and this is one of the biggest things. And that is very true there. Saint's just saying it could be better to work with one because they can cover your weaknesses and vice versa. That applies to everybody. Okay, you find out what the weaknesses are, find out what the strengths are. Okay, let us see here. Raven, just going to check your email, or my email is more to the point. And let's see. There we go. Now we're going to see what we can do. There we go. And we just, let's see, download that. Just downloading it so I can get that picture up for you. It's a little bit more, well, I didn't need that. Opening it up and see if this works. Of course, I haven't done this before, so bear with me on it. There we are. Bring that down here where I can see it. And this is just bringing it up. This is the sign that we were looking for. Well, we go copy. And let's see if this works. I'm just going to try and pop it straight in and hope that works, but I don't know if it will. I don't know if it's going to let me do that. I just love trying to figure out things that don't add up for me. I love the sign she's got. I wish I could figure out how to get it over there properly. But at this point, that is not quite the way it's working. We go copy that again and see if that works. I don't know why it's not. Well, this is just kind of annoying in case you hadn't noticed. See what happens if we can copy it to the path. Don't know if this will work or not. Again, this is a question of gambling. Don't know if that's going to work, and I might have just opened a door to all kinds of problems. But I do appreciate you sending it there, Raven. What do we got here? Nope. That is just annoying in my eyes. Oh, well, there's not much I can do with it. I figured it was worth a shot. But if I can figure it out. Hey, Bomber, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, I will at some point. That's file path, yeah. Okay, well, I can't spend a whole lot of time going around in circles on that. But here's the thing, Raven. I will figure out how to get that moved over. So one of these days in the very near future, I will manage to get that sign up. and let other people see what it looks like. The reality of it when we're I probably, the reality of it from my standpoint is this. It takes virtually every type of person to make this world complete. It's going to take some time to figure it all out for society to get the message as a whole. And here's the reality behind it. And this is the one that most people forget about. Okay. If we concentrate on what is wrong with everybody else, if we cannot focus on that, then what ends up happening is we tend to overlook. If you're pointing out the problem everybody else has, you may be overlooking the ones you have. And I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that offer there, Anthony. Again, where it comes to that, I was supposed to have a buy me a coffee link in here, but for those of you that are looking at that possibility, okay, again, in Canada, I take email transfers to innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. If you're not in Canada, PayPal works. Okay, because I am doing what I'm going to be doing here. One of the biggest projects I've got, aside from my own writing, is finding a way to get an actual publishing company up and running that will publish people's books without looking at them going, oh, that's not good enough. There are genres I won't touch. Okay. But it won't be a question of it's not written well enough. It'll be a question of where is it? Will work out. The price will vary person to person because it will depend, or more to the point, book to book, because it will depend on the cost of actually getting it done. If I'm going to be editing it, then myself and my team for that matter, if we are going to be editing it, then it will cost more. But I am going to build it in such a way that it benefits people across the world. I don't deal in this idea of let's cut people out. Well, I wasn't exactly expecting that. I just hit the wrong button. And here I am looking at a Facebook page. I'm talking about bringing, books and t-shirts and what have you up online. And all of a sudden, I've got mugs and what have you being listed of different options. There's what I needed. Oh, that ought to be good there, right? Bomber. I haven't honestly cooked in like 30 years, aside from stir fries and instant prep. So a couple of days ago, Friday, I don't know, a couple of days ago anyway, I made a meatloaf. And the following morning, I turned around and made a breakfast casserole. Okay. I've got a slow cooker that I do use for my own spaghetti sauce. But what I do there is I just use, I literally use fresh ingredients all cooked in the slow cooker and then freeze it after the fact. But, where it comes to fasting, this is the one thing that never made a lot of sense to me. Fasting, I do every single night. The moment I go to bed, I fast. Okay. That's why they call it first thing in the morning. They call that your first meal is your break fast. Okay. Now, everything, like I learned so much from you guys. It is just absolutely incredible. Yeah, I know we always got told we weren't allowed to play with food when we were growing up. It was kind of comical, really. But, you kind of live with it. Yeah, that's the thing, Raven. You know, people talk about, there's all this fear being propagated about, oh, we're being, is the government watching us? Well, let's clear something up. If you've got a camera in your phone, on your computer, you're being watched. It's that simple. The thing that you guys have to remember is most of what you guys do are not of that much importance to anybody. Okay. And I know that sounds rude, but it applies to me as well. Okay. See, look. Yeah, the reality is, Tara, like I tried one thing. I've been down in Texas. Okay. So I have tried some of the foods, but there is one food down in the southern states I tried once. Now I know a lot of you guys swear by it. Okay, I tried grits. I gave it an honest shot, and there is not a prayer I'm going to put it on my plate again. Okay, but then the same thing happens to me with things like I won't touch yogurt. I won't touch tapioca. You know, I'm still very much of the opinion that that red meat and vegetables works really well for me. Though I do like my seafood. Okay. I just don't get a lot of fresh stuff where I am. I mean, from my standpoint, I didn't go on any sort of, oh, okay. So I'm not the only one that feels that way. you know, you know, um, I'm not the one to look at what people are doing and go, oh, that's a bad thing, unless what they're doing is hurting somebody else. And the nice thing with narcissists is they don't genuinely try to hurt other people. What they do is they tend to not register that what they're doing is causing a problem because they just don't think that way. Okay. Yeah, grit seems to be one of those things that some people like, some people don't. For me, the real break point, the meal that I like that a lot of people tell me, oh, how can you eat that? Is liver and onions. For me, that's the go-to. If I can find somebody that can cook it, that'd be great. But finding somebody that can cook liver properly is a royal pain. Although I will tell you, there are some restaurants where their cooks are phenomenal. Okay. And again, this is something, okay, that wouldn't help me. Didn't like the grits to start with, and I'm just not drawn to chocolate. Yeah, the funny thing there, Anthony, where it comes to the chicken from the grocery store, it is cheaper. It's cheaper to actually buy, at least up here, it's cheaper to buy a fully cooked chicken and take that home than it is to buy a raw chicken and cook it. Okay. And I look at it going, there's not a bad setup. Yeah, I get that from a lot of people there, Raven. Of course, when it comes to, if I take a look at steak, I look at steak and go, if it's blue, that's as well as, and that's as cooked as I really like it. I can work with rare, but anything more than that is overcooked from my standpoint. Okay, but most people again don't like blue. I keep telling people I'm very much a carnivore. Okay, but that's the one thing that you got to take from a narcissist. They look at the world and go, "This is what I desire." They go into a restaurant, and especially if they're hardcore, and they go, "I want this done, and this done," before it comes to me, beyond just what the order is. Now, I don't know what red eye gravy is. I know what a red eye flight is, and I'm betting that's not connected. But, am I one to really sort through food? No. Let's face it, with a lack of taste buds, it becomes problematic. I was quite happy with my son the other day. He says, I don't know if it's working out quite the way I desire it to. Really like that I really desired it to. But, I did what I could, and he looks at me and he says, I'll bet you forgot the ketchup and the onions. I went, well, guarantee I forgot the ketchup. The onions I chose not to do. He says, well, it tastes like meatloaf, but he says, that would make it better. So I mean, I am starting to push things forward and figure out how to do it. But that was sort of a case of, okay, I've got to cut back as much as I can and make things work right. Now, of course, there is a neat little catch to this. The more I cook at home, the less I have to leave the house. Kind of works well being a bit reclusive. But the nice part that most people have, that most narcissists have, is they look at the world and go, this is what I desire. Okay. Ouch. How you doing, Cliff? Glad you could join us today. Yeah. Yeah, Cliff here has just written in. What happened was I was a perfectionist and my best friend was a narcissist. Now, there's a combination that can create some interesting conversations. Okay. But the fact he was your best friend tells us anyway, that, that there is a way to find a balance point with anybody. Okay. It's just you got to realize that what you're doing, what you're pushing for. What is this? Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense then why you call it red eye. Red eye gravy. This is neat. Anthony's just added. Red eye gravy is a southern favorite. It requires just 2 ingredients: the drippings of pan-fried country ham and black coffee. Who knew? Honestly, Raven, from my end, I've got a screen running that I never saw it lock up. Okay. No, I never actually even thought of that, but it might be interesting to try. I actually drink my coffee black. But that is something that's a little different. Now, of course, the problem for me is I don't actually cook ham at this point. Okay, primarily because I don't know how. And don't give me this idea of you put it in the oven, you turn it on, and it cooks. Absolutely. Joe is just saying, it's funny you should say that, Arkeith. You have a camera on your iPhone. They listen to your conversations at home. They meaning the government. I've always known that, but you got to remember, from my standpoint, I spent 3 years in my lab, in the military laboratories. So for me, it's never been a question of, are they watching me? Here's a short reality check for you. Before Donald Trump became president, okay, Donald Trump had a dossier on me. Okay, and we also had the fun little issue of the CIA showing up on my doorstep and looking for me by name regarding UFOs. Now, when you think about that, why would I worry about whether or not they're tracking me? Clearly, they know where I am. But no, that's something just because I'm curious. I'm just hoping it doesn't turn out like what I found the other thing that somebody told me was absolutely great. My cousin years ago swore by the idea of putting ketchup on ice cream. She just swore it was the greatest thing available. I'll tell you, I mean, you can do what you will with it. It's not poisonous, but you may regret having tried it. Okay, it's one of these things where I look at it going, once was absolutely enough. Okay, but the one thing, and this is why I say there is a positive side to being a narcissist. If you look at the world from the standpoint of, this is what I feel should be done with me, what should work for me, okay, you can get a lot more accomplished. Now, I've had to really turn my attention to that more so with corporations now than I ever have. Okay, because now what I found is if I enter a conversation with the idea I'm as big or bigger than they are, then they start paying a little more attention. Oh, Bomber, in all fairness, I still put ketchup on rice. Of course, if you think about it, you cook your rice up, throw a little bit of a few vegetables into a frying pan along with whatever meat. Toss the rice in on top of it. If you're throwing tomato sauce in, you're throwing ketchup in. But what I usually end up doing is putting all that together and then mixing a whole pile of cheese in with it. Now, I know there's a name for that, but I can't remember what the heck it is. But I do that and then I'll freeze it up in smaller packages. It may. Ketchup is a pretty heavy spice. Like, it's got a pretty definite bite to it. Oh, I have no idea whether they had jurisdiction. I only know they showed up on my doorstep looking for me by name. And of course, me being me, I was really, really subtle about it. She asked a bunch of questions, and I'm sitting there looking at her. And at the end of the fourth hour, it was literally 2 days that we sat down and talked together. At the end of the second day, she goes, "You haven't told me anything that our government doesn't know." I says, "Well, then you got one of two choices." I said, "You can," and she goes, "What's that?" I said, you can either turn around and accept the fact that I'm sitting on stuff that your government doesn't have, or your government is stupid." And she goes, "You can't call my government stupid." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to Canada." It says, "First of all, I'm an English major. I learned how. Second of all, I call my own government stupid. What makes you think I think any more of yours?" But something I do have to point out, the governments themselves, the way they're laid out, are absolutely done the right way. Okay, it's not the system that is a problem. It's the way it's being handled. And, we take a look at some of the laws that are still taking up room. When I'm talking about getting rid of clutter, okay, there are laws, like I know for an absolute certainty, well, I don't now, but about 15 years ago, I was looking into it. And at that time, it was still on the books that it was illegal to board an aircraft while in flight. Now, from my standpoint, yes. Okay, and the fact you've got it listed as a law is a bizarre concept. Except it turns out that was the law that was made back when biplanes were the big thing. Okay, but it's still on the books. That's the thing. Emojis or hand gestures and what have you can work really well to get a point across. Okay, unfortunately, with people like me, okay, I miss a lot of the subtle hints, and that's just the reality behind it. It's funny because and where are we? Go to this one right there. I've talked a lot. Obviously, many of you already know me from Spaced Out, from Spaced Out Radio. You know, and the reason that I look at this is because some of the topics that Dave comes up with are just phenomenal. You know, and let's face it, I've been with him now for somewhere close to 8 years now, I think. You know, one day I should go back and see when the first one was. But, you know, I'll have to take a look at that myself. What have we got here? You know, when I look at the issue of I don't like putting myself as a critical priority. I've had to learn that has to happen if I'm going to turn things around. Put that over there. You know, if I'm going to turn my business around and make it into an international company, okay, I'm going to have to do something with it. And the one thing that I really have to look at here, let us just see. We're going to just refresh that and see what happens. You know, but you have to, well, you don't have to. It is wise to look at what people are going through and decide whether or not you can cope with them. Whoa, people, that is absolutely amazing. We just hit 350 subscribers. You know, from my standpoint, that is amazing. I never thought I'd get past 35. In all fairness, I never thought I'd get anywhere. Well, Raven, the way they used to do it, when the biplanes were out, were still a thing. Biplanes were open cockpits. So all you'd have to do is take a pilot up there. The pilot would go up with a passenger, right? And the passenger would just have to get out of the cockpit and jump. Needless to say, dangerous. Yeah, my labs. I'm going to deal with this one this way. Okay. What is today? Today is Tuesday. What is today? Well, that's why we've got a calendar here. I'm just looking forward to seeing what we have. Today's Monday. Okay. So now that I know that, I can look at this. Welcome aboard, Christy. Glad to see you. Glad you can make it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here regarding the MyLabs, okay, and this is going to be a complication, but tomorrow is Tuesday, so I'm just writing in my calendar here. Okay, like I said, if you guys have a topic that you would like me to look into or like me to talk about, then absolutely, doesn't matter what the topic is. If I can deal with it, I will. Okay. So I've just added to my calendar. Tomorrow, we will talk about my lab and how that works and why it works, and frankly, some of what I went through. Okay, and of course, if you've got questions, absolutely ask. Okay, this is because as I've been doing for 8 years with Spaced Out. Okay, and I even find it when I go on the air with somebody else. I've been on Nathan's line, on his show. But I prefer operating from the standpoint of if people have questions. Where are we here? Nathan, where are you? There we are. This is Nathan's line. And I was just talking to him the other day. I'm going to have to be going. Don't have to, but he's asked me to come back on. And there is Nathan's. Come to think of it, let me just check. This is why I've got the calendar here, because I can actually do so. Okay. I am going to do my best on Saturday at 7 p.m. PST. I think that's when it's supposed to be, to get onto the quantum show with Nathan. Oh, yeah. Sadly, Joe, when you're dealing with narcissists, unless you're phrasing everything in a way that they are the center of attention, even if it's your endeavor, okay, if it's something you're working on, you've got to phrase it in such a way that they came up with the idea and you're following their lead. Unless you're doing that, especially if you're dealing with hardcore narcissists, you're not going to have a very enjoyable conversation. You know, and reasoning requires a willingness to shift direction. You know, and I do feel for you on that one. Um, the reality of it is that trying to reason with your parents, and I love the fact that earlier on you said that you love your parents, you just have a problem dealing with them. And virtually every kid I know of has problems dealing with their parents. I'm surprised my son doesn't have as much of a problem as I thought he would. Because let's face it, I'm a little stuck in my own ways. It's funny. He spent 4 days or 4 times anyway, something like that, trying to help me remember how to hang up a phone call. Okay, the old phones were great. You pick up the phone, you were talking, when you were done, you put it down on the cradle, it was hung up. There was no effort to it. Nowadays, it's just a scramble job. Okay, and yeah, Raven, I will absolutely deal with that one. There was a time when somebody would go my lab, and I'd literally break down. I suffered from a severe PTSD, and you'll understand why. Okay, it's still a very difficult topic, and many people that have gone through them run into all sorts of snags. Okay, what do we got here? Oh yeah, narcissists can be fun if you get that's just it, Cliff. If you've got a narcissist and a telemarketer shows up, the narcissist loves the attention, so they'll just milk it for everything they're worth. And much as that may seem rude to some people, you're wasting a telemarketer's time. Telemarketers, I haven't quite figured out why people do that. And I shouldn't say that because I used to work for a company years ago. I used to work for a charity called Stop the Violence. Okay, and it was great. I was dealing with we were phoning Texas at the time, and it was fun with the Texans because these people always identified themselves. We're phoning Texas, so I know it's a Texas person, and they're going, I'm a staunch Christian, and like I had one woman, I said, I'm phoning from Stop the Violence. We're aiming at developing programs and what have you to help teens mellow out a bit. And she goes, look, I'm a staunch Christian, and can't we just spay and neuter them all? And I just paused. I'm like, well, that would work in a sense, but may create problems with the next generation. The reality is, like I've had to take, and I get a lot of phone calls where it is telemarketers or it is people that are, that are frauding. I love the ones that phone me up and go, oh, your SIN number has been canceled. My social insurance number, it's kind of like your social security number if you're in the States. And they phone me up and go, your SIN number has been canceled. Okay, well, so I don't have to pay anything. This works out well. But narcissists can be a lot of fun. If you need somebody to distract other people, they'll do a wonderful job. But do understand, they are genuinely speaking, most of them are genuinely nice people. Okay, which I know some of you look at narcissists and go, there is a positive side to it. Now, I will tell you, there are types of people that I do not find a use for, aside from possibly shingling a roof. Okay. When we're dealing with violent crimes, and I mean the really truly violent ones, I don't have a lot of use for the people. Okay. I really don't. Where it comes to simply personality traits, most of the time I can shut them out if they're a problem, or just confuse the daylights out of them, which is much more fun. But when you start looking at the way a narcissist feels or a narcissist behaves, you're looking at some really neat complications. Okay. And that is some really neat tendencies. Number one, if you're striving to talk to them, the real key to it is to make certain that every idea you come up with, if you're talking about something you desire to change, make sure when you're talking to a narcissist that it's their idea that prompted it, not yours. You're just picking up on what they came up with the idea for, regardless of whether that makes sense. Okay, it's a coping mechanism only. This does not mean you mollycoddle narcissists. Okay. I mean, I've dealt with narcissists in very definitively blunt ways. Right. I remember asking one narcissist, because he was all about, it's all about me. He was in a store and he was definitely behaving as though the world revolved around him. And I finally looked at him, because he was yelling at the waitress about the fact that everything wasn't perfect. Right. And I just looked at him and I said, I think you're me. I said, look, what seems to be the problem? Because the poor waitress was just almost in tears. And he starts telling me all these things that were wrong with the service, with the food, with the atmosphere. I said, wait a minute. I said, hold up. I think you made a mistake. And he looks at me and he gets his puffed out chest and he looks down on me and goes, what do you think I made a mistake on? I looked at him and I said, well, honestly, sir, I think you think I care. Right. And I said, I may be wrong. And he said, and he looks at me and he goes, I says, if you're not happy, leave the store. Right. He looks at me and he goes, you're being awfully rude. I said, dang it, I thought I was getting good at it. Oh, absolutely, YJ. Narcissism is kind of narcissism as that trait. Okay, surfaces in just about everybody. Okay, but true narcissists are the complication because they're the ones that really get to be a little bit overboard. Okay, everybody has things that they like done their way and that have to be revolved around them. Now, I mean, you take a look at anybody that owns a company, anybody at all. When you have people that feel the world revolves around them, you can learn from them by figuring out that sometimes this is true. You've got to stand your ground. You've got to be true to yourself first. Okay. And for those of you that haven't done it, and this is what I mean by I'm learning to go along with this, but if you haven't done so, do give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down in the bottom right corner. That would be really appreciated. And just if you're just joining us, and I'll be posting this later tonight. But as requested, we are going to be discussing military laboratories tomorrow. Okay, the MyLab situation. And we'll take a look at my take on it and yours. And absolutely, like I've always said, if you've got a question, or if you've got a question, or if you've got a topic that you would like me to take a look at, absolutely ask. Okay, because I'm starting to get ideas as to which way things are going. I was looking at my past videos, and it does seem to be a question of the people that are really striving to change their life and pull it back together. That seems to be where people are running into snags. Okay, and that is precisely why I put that book together. Is because with over 70,000 clients asking how to put their book and their life together, I figured I'd best put it on paper, and that way I can just go, here it is. But it walks you through the methods, through very simple steps to take your life from where it currently is. And this applies whether you're a narcissist or not. But that book really is all about you. It's all about getting your life back in your hands. Okay. And I fully admit, number one, I have a very big, I had a call one day. Apparently, I've got a bit of a different way of looking at the world. Because I had a client phone me up one day, and he goes, he says, "Look, Keith, I need a real sarcastic comeback." Actually, what he said, I need a real smart ass comeback for a situation. He says, frankly, he says, I know this is going to cost me, but you're the biggest smart ass I know. Now, I wasn't 100% certain whether that should be taken as a compliment, but I decided I was going to. What had happened was this guy, one of the guys he worked with, did think that the sun rose and set on him. And this guy comes out, the guy that called me was talking to a North American Indian. Okay. He was talking to him, they were co-workers, right? And this guy that just an absolute piece of work come up to my client and goes, "What, don't you have a home?" Right. Clearly saying you should be at home, not talking to this person. He says, and the guy says, I didn't know what to do with it. And he says, how am I supposed to respond to something like that? So I looked at him. I said, well, you got one of two ways you can deal with that. You can either look at the guy and just go, yeah, I've got a home, but they say I can get out at night. Right. Or the other one, I said, you just look him dead in the eye and you go, well, of course I got a home. Why? You jealous? And I mean, this is just the way I deal with things. This does not make it the right way or the best way. As a matter of fact, there are times when I really think it's not a good idea. But having ideas in your head, having ideas that you feel have to be done your way is a mild form of narcissism. It revolves around me. And you can bet your bottom dollar that this particular series is done my way. I made the mistake with the first one of actually letting my editor make modifications to the way I was doing it, so I'm in the process of editing it again. But we have to realize that before a narcissist becomes a narcissist, they are a person. They are a human. They are a child. Well, usually they're human around here. There are some that aren't, but that's okay. But we have to remember the kids on the whole are taught narcissistic, greedy, and abusive behavior. They are not born this way. They are taught. Okay, and this is why when you're dealing with people, even if they are not your own kids, okay, treat them in the way you personally desire to be treated. Okay, we got to get away from this idea of fearing people, of being afraid of everything that moves. Okay, this is one of these situations where taking a look at the way your life is going. Okay. When you take a look at the way your life is going, ask yourself one question. And this really does boil down to looking in the mirror and going, am I happy with my life? And you look in the mirror and you go, am I happy with the way it's going? Am I being treated the way I desire to be treated? Well, if the answer to the latter is no, ask yourself, are you treating other people the way you desire to be treated? And honestly, most narcissists I've run into don't recognize they're doing anything wrong. Okay, mind you, I've seen that in every walk of life. Very few people like looking in the mirror and going, there's something I'm doing wrong. I've told people, I'm not perfect. I'm absolutely not. The reality is I was wrong once. I thought I was wrong and I wasn't. But the reality of it is, if you are going to keep an open mind, then you've got to be willing to listen to what other people say. Okay. It was funny. What do we got here? Yeah, Cliff is just saying, families teach government, teach church, teach all the rest are well, yes. That's an interesting way of putting it. The first time I looked at that, Cliff is just saying they're teaching all the rest of us are fracking with you. Well, the minute I read that, I'm thinking the fracture lines are put in the Earth's crust, which to me does not make sense. Okay, but ultimately, yes, we are taught from the get-go that if people are not identical to you, there's something wrong, there's something to be feared. Okay, and yes, the government does that. The education system is being derailed. People are not learning how to think anymore. They're being told what to think, when to think, and when to act. Now, I've never been good at following orders. Okay, as evidenced by the number of actual bosses I've either thrown out of the kitchen when I was working, or told to grow up right in front of everybody else. And never have been fired for doing that. I don't recommend that as a path. In a nutshell, YJ, my computer is dying. Okay, it's just that simple. And we have been looking at it. Well, that's an interesting possibility. I really don't know. I know I had somebody look at it the other day, and I've had a lot of people look at it. I do know the computer is collapsing. Hey, welcome back, Nathan. Glad you could join us. Well, I appreciate that, Joe. And no, in all honesty, I spent from 95 to 23, so 28 years working for a psychic line. I kid you not, 80 to 85% of that was common sense and counseling. That's actually what I'm going to be looking into, Cliff. I am going to be, but I have to wait until my brother's estate clears, in which case I will have the money to buy state of the art. Okay, at which point I will certainly be getting what I require, and I will talk to other people that are doing similar things to find out from them. I'm not interested in talking to the salespeople, because salespeople I found are great at talking about what they can sell you, but absolutely useless in the real world. The answer there, Nathan, is no. Nathan's just asking, did the computer person give you a note for reference? No, they really didn't. Okay. The sad reality is computers for me do not work right. Okay, they really don't. Like, I get a kick out of it. You guys know what a pocket dial is. Okay, you have your cell phone in your pocket and it turns around and phones somebody. I can have my phone at the far end of the house and it will phone people. Okay, which is really wonderful. But it's a little hard to call it. It's a little hard to say that I'm phoning them. So computers are a royal pain. Like I've got a monitor or a laptop right now with 12 gig of RAM. Okay, it's got 12 gig of RAM, and I've got three other monitors attached to it. And on all of those monitors, I've had days, and no, I didn't think to take a picture of the day it happened, but I have one day in particular with the laptop and three other monitors attached to it, where every one of them had a different time on it, a different computer time. This is just normal for me. It's just a pain in the neck. So I mean, that's what I'm looking at there. It's a pain, but you learn to deal with it. Well, that was fun. But no, when you're looking at the way the world is working, everybody requires some, a little bit of narcissism, a little bit of a lot of compassion in today's world would be better. Yeah, well, this is why I said, Cliff, where it comes to this computer, I know the poor thing is dying. And sad to say, the answer to the other question is it's only the computer is only 3 years old. Okay. Computers and people say, you work with them, eventually you'll get it. Well, I've been working with computers since 1979, and I've never got them to work right. When I first started working with computers, I was working on the TRS-80, which was a tape-driven computer. Okay, that one in the 8088. Okay, which was a dual disc boot up computer. So we're going back a day or two. And none of them have ever worked for me properly. And I know that sounds almost like making an excuse and going, well, it's not working, this is why it won't work. And yeah, my brother used to have a Tandy. He had a Tandy, he also had a Radio Shack. Like we were talking about going back into the day of the computer when they were a really simplistic thing. The funny part is these have more computing power in them than most of your big PCs. But what I find is, it really has boiled down to talking to a few people that are much more focused on what can be done for them. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cliff, but you're talking about 32 mega RAM and 64 mega RAM. The computer I'm sitting on and that I'm working with is 12 gig, not meg. It's 12 gig of RAM. Okay. And my understanding is that that's actually better. I have no idea what the processor is like. Of course, tech and this is why I don't deal with tech. This is why I talk to other people. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Raven. And yeah, I will be on again 4:30 tomorrow. We're just getting down to the wind down here anyway. But no, I'm glad you joined us there, Raven. But when the one thing that I really want people to realize is if somebody is truly narcissistic, they can be a royal pain. But as long as you figure out that when you're talking to them, make sure they are the ones that they feel they are the ones coming up with the ideas. Okay. It really boils down to juggling words on occasion. Yeah, as we found out, Nathan, with Frank there. Yeah, absolutely there, Cliff. But he went so far past that. I think it was way back then when Bill Gates made the comment, nobody will ever require more than 64 mega RAM. And then about 20 years later, he goes, boy, did I ever make a mistake on that one. You know, but no, where it comes to dealing with technology, I just came to the conclusion that if I get frustrated, it does stupid things. I got frustrated with a computer years ago, and it literally thing I had a 3.5 inch drive, and the thing spit out the guts of the 3.5 inch drive on me. Oh, okay, the guy from Apple, was it the guy from Apple? But yeah, I don't know. I know it was a way ago, and from my standpoint, it really boiled down to they underestimated it. The thing I get a kick out of with that is that if we look back into the late 60s, Gene Roddenberry, who designed Star Trek, was truly a visionary when you think about it. Okay, because the world that he painted, we are currently living in. In all fairness, that's probably an overstatement there, YJ. I don't doubt that you don't like the guy. Okay. But I have run into very few people that are evil. I've run into a lot of people that are really nasty, but evil's a little overstated. Yeah, no doubt there, Nathan. The problem is that society right now is so geared up on immediate gratification, on financial wherewithal, on the material world. They made this same mistake back in Egypt and in ancient Rome. They all thought, oh, I've got more money than the next guy, so this makes me better. Well, the reality of it is that it doesn't. And the Egyptians especially, found out it didn't matter how much money you had, you weren't taking it with you. Okay. From my standpoint, am I going to get things and make them work right in my eyes? The answer is yes. Hey, Mackie, glad you dropped in. Okay. I really am glad you showed up. I'm still debating whether or not, and I don't know if there's a difference, whether or not to get a Mac or stick with IBM. I mean, the reality is I'm used to IBM, and that's the one thing that may make the decision for me. It's not a question of it being a better computer or a worse one. It's simply a question of it being a different one. And I run into troubles with change a lot of the time. But this is why when we look at the materialism thing and narcissists, you got to remember, a narcissist is not necessarily materialistic. Okay. A narcissist is somebody that simply looks at the world as though it revolves around them. And more often than not, that regardless of what they're telling you, they are right. Take all the facts you can, show them to them, it won't matter. It's not a logical thing. And that's the thing to keep in mind. Yeah, and that would be, well, I really appreciate that, Mac. I mean, the reality of it is, from my standpoint, if it's taken me this long to get this limited knowledge sorted around with an IBM, okay, can you picture how much fun I'd have trying to sort around with a Mac? Yeah, I don't actually know the myth of narcissists. Okay, and like I said, I am not a researcher. So no, didn't see you come in there, love. But I don't actually know the myth behind narcissists. But what I do know is that just because somebody is a narcissist does not mean that there is a problem with them. Okay. The real big problem they have is they just don't see other people as an equal or as even part of the equation to speak of. Oh, well, that would explain why I haven't seen you in here. Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier. I was talking to somebody earlier that asked if it was okay if they just floated in the background. And I went, yeah, absolutely. Because much like the number of subscribers that I've got, and much like that is nothing compared to the number of people that may well be watching the videos. The people in the chat room is probably not even close to what is listening. Okay. And rest assured, I'm not the most exciting person to listen to. But there's a saying that goes everything in moderation. The same thing can be applied to people that are narcissistic. Okay. In other words, people that look in the mirror and go, I'm the be all and end all. This is not a question of them being a bad person. I'm a firm believer, love, that being cautious in what you post, the only caution I put around people with what you post, okay, is I personally prefer people not to swear. Okay, and so far in this chat room, I've never seen it. But no, speaking your mind honestly is, in my opinion, the utmost compliment you can give anybody. And posting what you honestly believe. The only thing that I look at where it comes to posting and modifying on it is for those people that have a tendency of posting negative stuff, as in who embarrassed who ripped who off, who murdered who. These are things that happen. Okay. They are things that happen. But if you're going to post stuff like that, I always recommend, well, almost always, that if you post one, post two that shows somebody helping somebody or something that makes people feel a little better. Because the reality of it is this. So much focus is being put right now on the negative side of everything. And this was one of the reasons why, when the question came up for me to discuss narcissism and narcissists, was because they have a reputation of being really problematic, and they do have some very positive qualities. But you gotta learn, like with everybody else, you gotta learn to deal with them. The reality of it is, when you're dealing with people, okay, there are people from every walk of life, and like my father used to say, if everybody was the same, we would have a majorly boring place. Okay, it takes people from all walks of life to help us find out what we feel is the best path for us. Oh, absolutely. But we just had somebody else, somebody earlier tonight mentioned that they themselves were a perfectionist and they were in a relationship with a narcissist. So they can happen. But like every relationship, you've got to know what the hiccups are and you've got to both be willing to work with them. I don't know if I can help. In all fairness, Anthony, from my standpoint, I don't know if I can help anybody. All I do is go, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I've seen work. If it works for you, this is great. Okay. But I've had reasonable success across the last, well, like I said, I started working full time in the psychic field, which really boiled down to counseling. I started full time in '96. Okay, I first entered it in '95, but '96 I went full time. But I cannot guarantee I will be able to help anybody. I can guarantee I'll never lie to you to make you feel better, unless you come right out and go, "Would you please lie to me to make me feel better?" Oh, that's not a problem there, Anthony. This is one of the drawbacks of looking at this. But no, the whole issue around anybody's personality, okay, anybody's at all, is that there are ways to deal with them. There are ways to find a balance point, but not everybody is capable, if you will, or has the strength to do so. For me, it boils down to this: I don't let it bother me, but I'm a different type of person. So, I mean, we have to look, and again, this really boils down to one simple issue: that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But we've got to get away from the idea of spreading fear, of spreading the dissension and separating points about people, because virtually everybody out there puts their pants on the same way. You all like to be treated decently. You all like to be respected. Okay. And let's face it, virtually every one of you, when you're happy, you laugh. When you're hurt or really sad, you cry. Okay. There are variations, but there are so many similarities between people that it's just absolutely remarkable. Now, with that in mind, what are we looking at here? Many, sad to say there, lovey love, most people, like most narcissists, don't realize that they're a narcissist, and therefore are not going to be likely capable of just looking and going, "Yeah, I really am one." And of course, the worst thing you can do to a narcissist, it's kind of like the worst thing that a bully hears, is when a bully is told they're a bully. They have a real problem with it. And absolutely there, Joe. And this is what you have to look at. Take a look at the positive side of it. The fact that you've got parents like that and you still get along is absolutely fantastic. Now we are getting down to the 2-hour mark, and as you can tell, the throat's seizing up. But I really want to say thank you so very much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Absolutely stunned we hit 350 today as far as subscriptions go. Tomorrow, I will be here to talk about the MyLabs and what's been going on there. And, hopefully we'll have a decent turnout on that. Well, this is a phenomenal turnout. And the people in here are absolutely incredible. Okay. So, I cannot thank you enough for being here. But I am going to bring this to a close. So, until tomorrow, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.